Hey guys, Agent of Doubt here, and yeah, I'm gonna take this cool Kamala T-shirt, and I'm going to pack it up, put it right next to my Bernie T-shirt, and yeah, just go ahead and admit that she lost, and it's over. And I have a list of things that I'm calling the post-mortem of the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign for president in 2024. Now, I looked at all of the election results that have come in so far. There's still a couple counties counting, and the popular vote is still in Trump's favor, but the gap is closing a little bit. But she's lost the electoral count and all the battleground states. She's lost. She's lost the popular vote. There's no way for her to close the gap all the way. She just lost, right? And I'm gonna be okay, but. Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that this directly will impact in their lifetime, and don't feel too good about that. But time to move on, and part of moving on is getting this off of my plate. This is my list of reasons that Kamala Harris lost, right? And they're not necessarily in order of importance. I will give you an order of importance at the end, but I will say that there was no one thing that she could have changed that would have won this election for her. And there was so much. So let's just get into it. This is my list of reasons, right? Number one was the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life, and the effect that it happened on that it had on his supporters. I've got a real life friend. His channel is Red Pill Rhino. He's politically different than me, and the night that Donald Trump had that assassination attempt on his life. Red Pill Rhino started wearing a MAGA hat. Just openly. Like, before then, he didn't. Right? He might have been leaning that way, but afterwards, he was diehard, all the way MAGA. And that's the effect that happened on a lot. That had on a lot of people. A little tongue-tied today. So, yeah. Joe Rogan... on the podcast, I don't think that podcast had a big effect, but it's worth mentioning that he had previously said that he would never have Trump on his show, and then when he decided to have Trump on his show, and he was asked why, he said, well, after he was shot at, I just had to have him. And Elon Musk also thought it was cool, and preachers would tell their flock that it's just a sign that God is protecting him and that he's the chosen one for you to vote for. Like, a lot of people, as a reaction to that assassination attempt, were galvanized, right? And so that's just the first reason of a lot of them. Let me get to all of them, okay? Second reason. Biden not dropping out soon enough, right? Just the fact that you don't want to change horses midstream is a problem. Like, this has happened in other elections where the candidate is switched out and the second candidate doesn't do as well because they, were missing the entire lead up to that point, and they have to, put a campaign together and really try to do things in a lot shorter time than they would have if they just stuck with one candidate. And part of this meant that there was not a proper primary. And they didn't decide to have an open primary, an open chance for people to vet any other candidate. She just got nominated by the DNC, and that was it. Everyone just rallied behind her like, hey, we've got just a couple months before the election. Better go behind, the heir apparent here. And that's probably a big reason that it's a contributing factor, right? And there's so many of these on this list that's, having just that one could, make you lose. But man, there's so many others. The third thing I'm going to bring up is that there was a large portion of the electorate that lean left that are on TikTok and heard a lot about Palestine. They were very informed about what's going on over there, and they wanted a candidate that would commit to there being peace in Palestine. And we saw this in Dearborn, Michigan, where there's a lot of Muslim people who decided to not vote for Joe Biden when he was still in the race, right? And so in the primary, they just decided to withhold their vote, and it looked really, really bad. And so then other states like mine in Colorado decided to not even have the top of the ticket on the primary. So I didn't even get a chance to vote for Joe Biden, let alone Kamala Harris in the primaries. So, that not having a proper primary was a problem, but also this was a known issue that even Joe Biden would have had to deal with, in that the far left did not have a candidate in this race in the end, when you consider that it was just down to Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. The other candidates like Claudia De La Cruz, that is like the socialist candidate, and Jill Stein, that's the Green Party, they did very poorly, and just a couple thousand people in each state voted for them. They had no chance. So it's between Trump and Kamala, and both of them were saying that Israel has a right to defend itself, which, the far left is tired of hearing that. They want to see peace in Palestine, and not have Israel attacking everything in the Middle East and bringing us into World War III. And so, since there was no candidate that would be favorable to the people of Palestine on the ballot that had a chance to win, a lot of these voters, they either voted third party, or they just decided not to vote for president if the third party is what they didn't align with, if that was their one issue. And so you see this effect in a lot of states where the down-ticket Democrats won, and also Trump won in that same state. And so that's a thing. It's a factor. That's only the third thing I've said on this whole list, but here we go. Next one is Kamala Harris courting the right at all. And that has to do with not just Israel that I just spoke about, but she was a prosecutor, as far as putting people in jail. It's, a very conservative, good talking point thing there. Having Liz and Dick Cheney be part of her campaign and accepting their endorsement, the architect of the previous war in the Middle East endorsing her was not a good look for people who don't like that she was courting the right and trying to get voters on the right over to her side. Dick Cheney was, George W. Bush's vice president. So, yeah, she was really trying to look like a good alternative for the right, and it didn't work. It failed miserably. Also, she was pro-fracking, and she didn't talk a lot at all about the environment at all. So, like, people on the far left were very not happy with her. But as part of this post-mortem, I just want to say, picking the vice president of the current president who dropped out of the race, right, as the heir apparent, that now is affected by what happened 4 years ago when, in picking a vice president, Joe Biden was looking for someone who checked a lot of boxes. Now, as far as Kamala Harris being black and Asian and female and all that, checked a lot of boxes for people who would vote for identity politics, but also she had a lot of boxes that, you know, would appeal to conservatives, because Joe Biden wanted to appeal to that side of the fence with his choice in VP to balance the ticket, right? So then 4 years later, the balance is imbalanced because Joe Biden's gone, and so now she starts from, you know, exactly where she was politically 4 years ago, on the side of trying to steal votes from the right instead of, you know, looking to all of those people who were politically just orphaned on the far left. So she tried to give them Tim Walz, which was also a mix of, you know, football coach image, but you know, really spoke to more left ideals, but it didn't have enough time to work. We didn't really know who Tim Walz was. Next, I'm going to say there was a transcare, pronouns scare ad campaign where every ad that I saw while I was watching football was saying, he's for us and they're for they, them. And I'm just going to say it worked, right? It was effective as an ad campaign. It got people thinking that the Democrats would rather make sure you use the right pronouns than make sure that you're getting paid enough by your job, or fix the strife in the Middle East, or do anything about the environment, you know. And I'm not saying that using people's preferred pronouns is a bad thing. I'm just saying there's a lot of people who want to be able to afford to put food on the table, and that was more important. Now, that's a good transition to this other thing on my list, inflation. Just the fact that the incumbent and Kamala being like tied to the incumbent as the incumbent's vice president, she was in office while inflation took off. And this is actually a worldwide trend. All of the incumbents are losing. The Tories in Britain, you know, just like all over, we're seeing that whoever was in office, whether they be right or left, the incumbents are losing. And it's just this worldwide trend of anti-incumbency that I really don't like for the stability of the world. I think that might actually lead to World War III, that you know, alliances will be broken because the opposite party got into power at the wrong time. It's just a thing that I'm worried about. Next, I'm going to say, for voters like me, I never heard Kamala Harris talk about COVID, right? And not like in a sense that, you know, Donald Trump let a whole bunch of people die, that it was unnecessary if he had just like you know, told people to act accordingly when you know, COVID was happening, and not politicize it. Like, all of that stuff aside, I think what they don't want to talk about is that COVID is still around. It is still a public health menace. It's still affecting people, and so they just kind of just mum's the word. Shh, shh, don't talk about that at all, right? And for me, I'd like people to be safer, and, pick your thing that's worth getting COVID, Don't go to just any rock concert. Go to the one that you want to see, because if you get it for, say, going to an Olivia Rodrigo concert with your niece, and that's not really your jam, you're just drug along, and then you get COVID, you're not going to feel like it was worth it as much as, like, say, going to see one of the final shows of the Rolling Stones. So, yeah, she wasn't talking about COVID. She wasn't talking about a depression-like economy that we have. Depression is a evil, bad word, but like anytime that we meet the criteria for calling this a depression or recession, we're just going to change how we measure it, and we're going to change what sort of core inflation we look at, and we're going to change, whatever jobs numbers and unemployment numbers that we look at. We're just going to change them and change the way that we look at them so that everything looks good. But this election really was a vomiting reaction towards that kind of thing, because people know that prices went up and their pay stayed the same. Right? They just know. And you can't get around that. That's why leaders around the world are being ousted for whatever can come in and promise to make it better. Next, I'm going to say just social media climate in general. TikTok becoming the bubble that a lot of far left people are in, and X becoming the bubble that a lot of conservative people are in. Elon Musk bought Twitter, and he's turned it into everything that Gab or Minds or Parler or Truth Social ever wanted to be, And so the only way that they could really take over the public square was to that's a Freudian slip right there. The only way that they could take over the public square was to buy it out, because when we're comparing ideas head to head, I would give the advantage to the left, but when you can change the algorithm on a social media platform to make one guy have his account worth like 1,000 times more than everybody else's account, and put notifications on the entire platform that Elon has spoken again, and he's just retweeting everything from the right, when he initially bought the thing saying that it was too partisan and it needed to be more free speech, and all he's turned it into is a platform for the right. Just go look at his account right now. The last couple days of what he has tweeted every day, it's just more talking points from the right. And so these bubbles, they are a reason. It's hard for people to get out of their bubbles, and it's hard for politicians to get into those bubbles and try to win people over. So, next one I'm going to point out is just gender. Kamala Harris is female. We now have had 2 female candidates for president that have not won from the Democrats. And it seems like there are a lot of male voters who just won't vote for a woman. I've actually heard of female voters who won't vote for a woman, but it's a thing, and I'm willing to be honest about that. There are people who just won't vote for a woman over a man. for a myriad of reasons. But yeah. Next thing, Teflon Don. Donald Trump is not held accountable for anything that he should be held accountable for. We're talking legal or just the things that he says. He has taken all of the civility out of politics. And, justice delayed is justice denied. If he had been sentenced prior to, the election, then maybe this election would have gone differently. If people had moved faster to bring him to justice for the things that he obviously did, and history will show in history books to kids like 100 years from now, they're going to show like he obviously did these things that obviously fit the criteria for these crimes, and he was just not held accountable because people aren't strong enough to hold him accountable. They back down from the bully. Let's see. I'm going to say one of Donald Trump's wins is that he has this branding thing where I used to coach people for job interviews. Like if the person who's interviewing you says, "Sell me this pen," right? Like the movie clip, the stereotypical question from all job interviews: "Sell me this pen, sell me this Tootsie Roll, sell me this whatever." There's a certain answer you can give where you insert yourself into the solution, right? You can make up bullshit like, "Oh, the pen can write upside down, and the pen will never run out of ink, and it's a space-age technology pen," and all that. That's fine. You're selling the advantages of the pen. But if you say to people, "If there's ever a problem with this pen, you can come right back to me, and I will personally replace this pen or fix it, and it will be better than ever. Trust me." That is a different type of sales tactic that wins with a lot of people. When they hear, "I will fix it. I will personally fix it for you." And that strategy for Trump, I think, was a lot better than anything I was hearing from the Harris-Walz side. They weren't coming in saying that they were the solution. They look at people who say that they're the solution and scoff at that sort of rhetoric and that mindset, but it convinces people. It might not be true, but it's effective as far as garnering votes. Next one I'm going to say, Donald Trump gets the troll vote because there's a lot of people who hate watch liberals on social media, and they just want to collect every instance of people crying and sniffling, and they want to just enjoy drinking the tears of the liberals. And there's an entertainment factor to Trump and the gaffes, and just watching liberals freak out. And they call it Trump derangement syndrome. And Trump makes news in a different way that the trolls find entertaining. And there are a lot of people in America that are just voting for somebody who's going to, at least be entertaining and not sleepy. I'm going to say that Kamala Harris, even though she was the vice president for the last 4 years, she is far less well known than Donald Trump. And if this was the issue that Democrats wanted to work on in the future, they're going to have to bring a celebrity the size of Donald Trump to run for president. Somebody's going to have to take one for the team and risk their celebrity. This could be somebody who's a well-known liberal figure like Jon Stewart or Tom Hanks, or maybe even someone who had a little bit more appeal to the entire electorate. Could reach across and maybe grab some right-leaning voters like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, right? They're going to have to run someone like that just to have that identity that's ingrained into the living rooms of people, like Donald Trump has had over decades. Like that's a win in his column, and you have to give him that people just don't know Kamala Harris, and especially Tim Walz, as well as Donald Trump. I'm going to say another problem that I saw was that Kamala Harris running as the vice president while the current president's still in office and is not running, she was unable to distance herself from Biden's policies, right? This was a problem for her. And if we go back to, say, the Palestine issue, right? Bibi Netanyahu, he was speaking to Congress, and there was protests on the outside, and when Kamala Harris was asked what she thought about those protests, she's like, well, we are still going to be strong allies of Israel, right? And she's just taking the talking points from her boss and not contradicting her boss. And that's something that you want in a vice president. But it put her in a box. She could not escape the policies of Joe Biden in that moment. This is she might have got a couple 10,000 in all of the swing vote states more towards her side. I don't know if it would have swung the election, but she wouldn't have had these people refuse to vote for her if she had said anything more promising about bringing peace in Palestine than what Joe Biden was offering. It looked like it was just going to be business as usual. If she was elected, we're just going to stay on the same course, keep selling all of the instruments of death to Israel, and they would just keep using them on the Palestinians, right? So that's just one instance. Going forward, if Democrats are going to learn from this post-mortem, I think that just not running the person who is the VP unless there is a agreement with the sitting president that they're not going to be angry if that VP starts to undermine the current policies of the way things are going forward. That's something that is going to be how you run a campaign going forward, because you can't have the VP in a box and stuck and not able to branch out and be themselves. Last thing on my list I'm going to talk about is the education gap, right? People who have college education like myself broke for Kamala more than people who didn't. And there has become a politicization of education to where people who did not go to college are now feeling very righteous about such decisions and saying it's not worth it. The student loans will not be worth the extra money that you will make in the end, even though we have charts on how a bachelor's degree will make more than $1 million over the course of your lifetime than a high school diploma, right? And I think that there's definitely something to that needs to be discussed. Why was it that educated people vote one way and people who are not educated were voting another? And it could just be, like I said, the branding thing that people who aren't as educated just fall prey to branding tricks and whatnot. At any rate, it looks to me like Donald Trump's going to have all three branches of government all under one party that he's the leader of, and so he's got a mandate. And I'm not going to be like some people and tell you, like, I hope everybody who voted for him gets what they voted for in a way where it means basically the same as your body, my choice. You know, it's the blue version. I'm not going to go all blue and on and think that this Alfie Oakes guy who got arrested had ballots in his barn, and Elon Musk was intercepting electronic ballots with Starlink and changing votes, and that's why. No, I'm just going to say it looks like it was done fairly, this election, and we're going to see what happens, and I hope things get better. I hope that whatever happens with all three branches of government being under one person, we actually do see some benefits from it. Genuinely hope that. And come January, I'll say Donald Trump is my president because I'm an American. And we have elections to decide these things, and then in 4 years, I will vote for whoever else I want.